Don't believe, just know. Cymatic TV, turning vibration into reality. Welcome to Cymatic TV. This is the energy update for your Friday, the 2nd of October, 2020. Been a bit of a hectic week, really, hasn't it? You know,
Certainly has. Certainly has.
It was a bit of a shocker. A lot of the stuff we didn't see coming. That was quite funny.
Well, we were in great anticipation, weren't we, for the big geomagnetic storms that had been promised down the line and the subsequent earthquakes. So we were kind of sitting, waiting for that to happen.
And that did happen. We did have the geomagnetic storm, so there was a lot of energy coming our way. But after looking back over it, I realised why the earthquakes didn't kick up. But we're going to go into that over the thing. So if we just sort of see what's been going on in the general pattern over the energy this past week. So we just look onto the on the first section here, which is on the left-hand side. You have the movie of the sun, of what the sun was going round. If you go down to the bottom left of the sun screen, you should be able to click play on that, I think.
No, it doesn't want to play. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go.
There we go.
We've got the sun moving.
We got it. And then on the right-hand side is basically the Earth's magnetic field. The top photograph there, you can see that goes back to 30th of September. That goes back to Wednesday and going all the way through to now. We've seen a couple of blips go on, but if you see in the bottom right-hand corner, you can certainly see the magnetic storms. And this goes back over the week. And we did have a magnetic storm kicking off. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, on the Monday and Tuesday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, around that sort of area. We had a little bit on the Saturday night as it sort of all kicked through that coronal hole, which you could see in that movie as it went through. You know, the coronal hole that was moving in front of that sunspot. And that sunspot, as I said, I didn't think it was going to do much, and it didn't kick anything our way at all. We could probably see this on the next slide. If you click onto the next slide.
Which I'm trying to do. 1 second. There we go.
Okay. And so on the top there, you can see the X-ray flux, which is normally the indicator of the sort of wind, the prana wind that's coming from the sun. And that's been dropping through the floor. And basically, there is reasons behind this, and we'll go into that a little bit later on after the earthquakes. But just for the map that's down below, that's the energy lines that go across the Earth. And it all has to do a little bit with that whole energy dropping through the system, and it is dropping all the time. Our shields are very, very sensitive, simply because the energy is not particularly strong. If you go to suspicious observers anytime, they've, you know, Ben Davison does an absolute sterling job of the daily news on this, on space weather. And he calls it the coupling system between the electronic layers of the Earth, but also the electronic layers of the sun and the solar system. And you can go that further, and he takes it all the way up to, you know, galactic and universal level. And, you know, this is part of our electrical circuit that's connecting everything together, electromagnetic circuit. And we have the same thing within us in our chakra systems. If we go on to the next slide, you can see here, this is demonstrating what it is. This is a beautiful photo on the right-hand side of something which we call red sprites. Now, red sprites are usually very high altitude lightning that doesn't necessarily have to be in thunderstorms, but what it does is couples between the different layers, the atmospheric layers or the magnetic layers, between the upper echelons of our atmosphere right down to our Earth. And it just shows that sort of connecting factor that's going on, which we can see on through the lines on the Earth, the magnetic lines, geomagnetic line system that I've got on the bottom left-hand corner. And also the thing that we talked about last week is that South Atlantic anomaly. And that came a little bit back up on the radar during this week. And we'll be able to see this on the earthquake. So let's just go straight into now to sort of see what was happening on the earthquakes and see how this intercoupling system works. This was the Friday when we said initially I was saying that there were going to be earthquakes in the 6th region around about either in Italy or down in the Philippines. As you can see, that did not come off that day. It was mainly rattling around North America, to be honest. It was spits and spurts in other places, but nothing really fantastic. So it was mainly a day where the sacrum started kicking off. If we go on to the next day and the next slide, yeah, that's when the heart chakra starts getting a little bit of the flow. It starts dumbing down a little bit more in the sacrum area. This is on the is it the Saturday, the 26th was the Saturday?
Yeah.
You would know, yeah. And so you can see the earthquakes dotting both sides. We did getting a bit more in the Italy section. As far as I remember, there wasn't one in Greece that was 5.4 or something like that.
5.1 in Greece.
Yeah, so we weren't too far off the radar, as it were. We were pretty close. But the interesting one was down off the bottom of South Africa, which was it was a 6.1, I think, or 6.2. And we'll come back to this, and this has all got to do with the South Atlantic anomaly. But we'll go back to that in a moment. If we go on to the next day here, then it's still a little bit around the heart chakra, but nothing really to shout about. More grouping around the sacrum. And what sort of, this is the Sunday, as far as I remember, the 27th.
Yeah.
And this is building up. You'll see this pattern in the next slide as well. This pattern is building up with the sacrum still ticking all the time. The plexus solus, or the solar plexus, starts kicking in, so then that gives a little bit more force to that sort of sacrum. That whole sort of, it's all about self in a way. The sacrum doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. That can be a really good thing. But if we look at what's going on in America, we probably might understand why. We go on to the next slide there. We can certainly see there's a big split now starting to happen where you're getting a bit more being pulled in towards into the plexus, into the solar plexus, but also around the sacrum, and that's sort of kicking off. And that was the sort of Monday. If we go into the Tuesday there, it gets even tighter again. And then, as far as I remember, it was the Mercredi, the Wednesday dropped into my
Speak in
French.
English, please.
There was a little bit in the heart chakra, so it's starting to get personalized. So this force started coming out personalized and everything like that. But it was all to do with the sacrum. So,
which day was the American debates?
Well, this is it.
This is Trump and Biden.
That was this day here.
Oh, okay.
It was the Wednesday, wasn't it?
I think so.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
And did you? I didn't watch it, but I heard echoes about it, and it reeked of sacrum and solar plexus, real sort of. But
it did get quite personal as well, didn't it? It was poking at each other.
Yeah, really picky. It was nothing to do with policy, nothing to do with other people. It was mainly to do with you're a bad guy, usual sort of politics, really. Real
Fronting each other.
Yeah, mudslinging stuff. Politics is a right pain in the backside. But that just shows the sort of vibration that was coming through. And looking at this vibration of what was happening on the earth, there was no other way that it was actually going to end up that debate, as it were. And as we come back through, so this is onto the Thursday, the plexus solus is still kicking off. The sacrum seems to have sort of dissipated across South America and also through into Alaska. The heart chakra was still getting zipped, and there was one little earthquake not too far from where I am, down just on the other side of the Pyrenees, down in Spain. It was the following day where all the emotions started coming out about the about the debate and people getting a little bit more emotional and less personal about it. But it's certainly been very heated, and you can see that the way the plexus solis kicked off. There is another little one that I'd like to say as well, which is just down in South Africa, which is all to do with that South American, South Atlantic anomaly. Yeah. This is just the rest of the day. This is only half a day, but as you can see already, there's not really a lot going on. And that's, you know, pretty obvious because of the way of the, you know, the sun's vibration has been, although we've had a lot, we took a big whack from that coronal hole. And that is really base vibration. It's very solid, slow, heavy stuff, you know, and it tends to be sort of lower chakra sort of vibration stuff. So if anybody's been having a very frustrating week and you seem to be trying to sort a load of shit out for yourself, as it were, you know, and it might have been a little bit difficult, this is probably why at the moment with the vibration that's coming from the sun.
Did it not kick off like yesterday evening though with a number of smaller earthquakes, as in just the volume of earthquakes came through?
If you go back to the slide before, yeah, there was quite a few little ones, but even still, it's, you know, it's a lot less than it is generally. You know, there was a couple of whacks on the root chakra, but you know, it wasn't as Pacific, or not as in Pacific Ocean, but it was not as imprecise as it has been in the past. You know, and this is all to do with this waning energy, I think, that's coming through. And the corona hole certainly did not affect us as much. This is a video. If you can click down the bottom left-hand side, you should be able to sort of start it clicking. There you go. And this is basically the vibration that's coming from the sun. You can see these sort of like spokes coming out of the wheel of the sun. And this is to do with its positive and negative flows of energy. Yeah. You can just press that again. You can just see at the very beginning, you've got that in the bottom right-hand animation. You've got that dark red that's coming through. And that actually flowed through us on the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So it overtook the coronal hole vibration coming our way. And it's what, you know, it's, you know, the solar, what does suspicious observer, what does Ben Davison call it? I think he calls it the magnetic sheet, doesn't he?
The galactic sheet.
The galactic sheet, or the magnetic sheet, or the solar sheet. You know, you can call it Parker spiral as well. If you look up Parker spiral, solar Parker spiral, you'll see it. It's like this rippling effect that comes out from the center of the sun as magnetically, and as it turns, it creates these waves. And this wave came through, and that took over the coronal hole, and that's what caused the geomagnetic storm that we saw in the earlier slides on the Earth. You know, if you look on the first one, I think it is. Yeah, these waves here was actually the sun just sweeping through the Earth. So it wasn't, you know, there was a coronal hole going on, and yes, there was an effect from the coronal hole, but it was limited by that magnetic sheet that was, or that wave that was coming through the solar system. So it sort of wiped it out. And if you go down to, I think it's the third map down, or the fourth map down on the earthquakes, third or fourth slide down, I think, or one before. Okay, so you can start seeing where you got in the top left-hand corner, you start getting earthquakes on by the North Pole. And this is a bit of a reset system where it sort of calms everything down and puts it into reset. If you go on to the next slide, you'll see one now down in down the Antarctica.
Yeah.
In the bottom right-hand corner, or the bottom left-hand corner. You know, and this is where the sun, it's almost as if the sun came sweeping through and it went to the Earth. Okay, and start again. And it almost processed it back, and then we can see where the earthquakes start collecting again back into the solar plexus and the sacrum later on in the week. But that all has to do with that wave coming through, that magnetic wave coming through the solar system. And so if we go, this is where we come back to that South Atlantic anomaly. The only earthquake that really triggered that I said it was going to be around about 6, was down in South America. And it's just tipping, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side, part of that magnetic anomaly. And if you notice, if you go on to USGS earthquakes, you know, and you keep an eye on it, you'll notice that Africa does get hit quite a lot, completely off the track from the fault lines. So, you know, there's obviously a major thing going on in South Africa, in the southern part of Africa. And I think it's basically where it's pushing the poles, so it's going to meet up in that diamond shape in the Indonesian plate, which we can see there just above Australia and stuff like that, you know. So this was like a reset for the magnetic field of the Earth, and people should have felt that as well. Although we had the solstice coming through as well, people should have felt a bit of a reset of like things going back to, okay, I'm going back to the start, going back and starting again, and you know, almost like taking a step back before you take 2 steps forward in a way. You know, that's what people may well have felt this week, you know, going over stuff. There hasn't been a great deal in the way of meteorological sort of stuff, apart from the fact that it's been snowing a lot all over the place.
You've had snow in the Pyrenees, haven't you?
We've had snow in the Pyrenees. It's absolutely beautiful. They've had snow in the Alps, huge amounts of snow in the Alps. They've had loads of late snow down in Australia and in New Zealand and places like that. So it's getting a lot colder. There's no doubt about it. You know, it's been a beautiful Indian summer, but there has been this edge to it. We were talking last week as well about this possible cloud that we can see on the left-hand side, which is the particles that come from the Sahara Desert, which are really hot. They get caught in the electrical system. And when they get caught in the electrical system, they create that hot charge in the colder air, and they can create hurricanes and stuff like that. But as we said last week, there ain't going to be a lot of hurricanes coming this season because the sun is not active in that way. It needs a lot more sunspots, explosions for it to happen. But this cloud, so it literally, normally it would have formed before that yellowish cloud got to the Caribbean, but it hasn't been forming. But what's happened is that cloud looks like it's going to go straight across Mexico and join what is this building hurricane in the Pacific, which probably could be hitting Hawaii and stuff like that. And Hawaii is also a bit of a reset button in the earthquake sort of zone and stuff like that. So this week, we certainly didn't get the earthquakes, did we? We got them completely wrong, really. The only thing we did get right was the bunching up in the sacrum, which was the worst probably outcome.
The Indonesian ones did come through just a little bit later than you anticipated, and it was Greece rather than Italy.
In Italy, yeah.
It didn't get quite as far up as Italy, but Greece certainly had a couple of 5s, so it was a rumbling down there.
Yeah, it was dumbed down by that magnetic sheet that went through, and I hadn't checked that, to be honest, and I should have done. This is just to sort of see what's coming down the line as well through the sun. This is the side of the sun, as if you imagine if you're looking at the sun, this is the left-hand side. So we look at this section here, and this is the left-hand side, which is round here. So we're looking at what's coming around the corner. And to be honest, there's
not a whole hell of a lot.
No, there's not. So, you know, cycle 25 that was supposed to be kicking off, and yeah, it has started, but
some very tiny little spots, but nothing nothing. I mean, that was the largest we've seen really.
Nothing to write home about.
No.
Really
no,
nothing to write home
going
about.
back to quiet again.
Yeah. So I think this week will still be in that whole sacrum and plexus solis. I'm hoping the root chakra down in South America will start kicking off, because that'll signify a real reset, and it could be a real reset in the way we're thinking. We can see that movement happening. Last weekend there was a lot of demonstrations across the world, you know, in Canada and everything like that,
And in the UK.
And in the UK against lockdown and stuff like that. And that's all that sort of frustration and that whole sort of me aspect, and kind of going, no, I don't want this. You know, that's what a lot of people have been saying about it. And this is the energy that's going to keep coming out. So
leading towards a reset, is that the
yeah, I reckon so. The thing that we're going to be looking at is, if you look on the left hand side of this picture, what we've got at the moment, we do have a collection of very dim spots. I reckon they're going to build up over the next week. So over the next week, they'll get to the right hand side and start brimming the horizon of the sun. We'll start seeing them coming in by the end of next week. And then I think the week after that, they should be fronting the Earth. And I'm hoping that's going to be setting the reset, the birthing of a new idea or new waves coming out in late October. So this should be a personal thing as well as a collective thing. So over the next couple of weeks, this could be a good way of cutting out the old and getting in the new. You know, it's a good autumn vibe, you know, of letting go of last year and getting into the new that should be coming down the road. So if you're in that way of mind, if you've got that if you're the way that inclined, if you're that way inclined, I'll get it out in a minute. If you're that way inclined, you know, it's a good time to sort of assess what we're doing. If you're, say, like Cancer, you'll be in the middle of the throes of your year. It's just a good to sort of stop, take a look around, make sure everything's working like it should be and everything like that. If you're a Capricorn or Sagittarius, like myself, I'm a Capricorn, you can really assess what you've been doing over the last year. If you're like, you know, sort of Taurus or Pisces, you should be really looking at kind of, okay, how can I finish this year off? So by January, I get my projects done. If you're sort of, you know, Virgo or Librans, because they're so lovely, obviously, you know, they should be really kind of going, okay, so now how should I be putting this all into action? How can I start it all?
So this is quite a good time for Librans, and if we're sort of looking at a reset that can tie in quite nicely with the winter to be looking and making those ideas for the coming year. Totally.
And because Libra are the cardinal sign, they will give that direction. They will voice, it will be something that will be voiced, as it were. You know, it will be like a sound bite. And it's you know, it's a very Aryan idea and point of view. I think that's what's going to come through. That's going to be in 2 weeks, I reckon. You know, I reckon between the 16th and the 20 odd of October. So, you know.
Watch this space.
Yeah, exactly. Watch this space. So, you know, we'd love to know how you feel about it. Yep. You know, any comments you have, please do put them into the comment section down below. If not, go on our Facebook page and comment there on Cymatic TV. We do answer any comments if you do leave them. And it's always good to know, because
it's good to get feedback, real feedback from what's going on, because we can't just base it on ourselves all the time. We need more feedback from a wider range of inputs.
Well, I base it upon, you know, obviously a lot with my clients as well and stuff like that. And the clients I've been seeing this week have been very, how do I position myself sort of scenario. it's been quite, a lot of Taurians and Capricorns actually, funnily enough, this week. So that whole reset of going back to Earth certainly came out in my healings this week.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was mainly Earth signs, and a lot more Taurians than Capricorns. But yeah. Brilliant. But it's
Thank you, Tom, once again.
That's all right.
We were going to keep this nice and short and sweet, but I do find it hard to stop you once you're in your flow.
Did we go on for a very long time again?
I'm not sure. But no, it's always very interesting, fascinating, and to always review what we said last week to what's actually come up, and and see where we're at, because we're all part of the learning as well. So thank you.
There's no problem about getting it wrong.
No.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. We will be doing it again next week. Keep an eye on the earthquakes, the sun, and everything like that.
Yeah, if you enjoyed, give us a thumbs up and do subscribe and share if you think people are interested, and if you want to try and grow the audience as we grow. Okay, thank you, Tom, and until next week, we'll say ciao for now.
Ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't believe, just know. Cymatic TV, turning vibration into reality.